You might have a dog at home or a cat. Well, I've got a 3D printer, and I like filming it too. I've seen a lot of these magic time lapses online. But a lot of people spend a bunch of time on Raspberry Pis and Bluetooth controllers and engineering degrees to get these. Today I'm going to show you how you could get these time lapses with just your phone and your 3D printer. Nothing extra. Let's start by taking any time lapse. Here's our 3D printer, doing its thing. This is pretty cool, but it's ugly. The problem is that for a lot of 3D printers, the print bed has to move during the printing process, so the model isn't staying in place with respect to the camera. And even for printers that have a stationary print bed, there's still the issue of the print head moving all over the model as it's being printed. And this is cool, but it's a different kind of effect, kind of like a building construction time lapse, where you can still see the cranes lifting material around. The effect we're after is where the object seems to be growing out of thin air. Let's check out how people normally do this. The basic idea behind this is that throughout the printing process, you want to get good shots of the model where you've gotten the print bed in position and the print head out of the way. Basically, make the 3D printer show its work every so often, and make the camera take a picture. This way, you get a clean picture with every layer printed. And you can stitch these all together into your time-lapse video afterwards. The way you instruct a 3D printer to show its work is to modify something called G-code. To print any model, software called slicers convert 3D objects into G-code instructions to print the object layer by layer, and you can modify these G-code instructions yourself to do something extra after every layer. Okay, so you get the 3D printer to show its work, but what about the camera? How does it know when to take the picture? The way most people do it, they get the printer to communicate with the camera. This is usually done with some sort of button or remote attached to the 3D printer. You attach the button so that it gets pressed when the print head moves to a particular position. This way, when a layer of the object has been printed, the printer moves the object in place and the print head out of the way so that it presses the button, which triggers the camera to take a picture. The button and camera communication can be wired or wireless with a Bluetooth controller. Some people also do this by running Octoprint on a Raspberry Pi. There's a lot of complicated ways to get this done. But maybe you don't have a camera that supports Bluetooth. Or you don't have the right remote on hand. Or maybe you just don't like the thought of torturing your things with your electrical engineering degree. Is there a way that we can just have the 3D printer handle printing, and the camera, or cameras, handle recording, and still get these magic time lapses? The answer is yes, and I've been able to get some pretty consistent results with this. These are two different angles shot on two different cameras for the same print. Here's the idea. You want to set up your camera or cameras to take a time lapse. For our example, let's say 1 frame every second. So your cameras are going to be taking these beautiful pictures by themselves, once every second. But most of the frames are going to be bad. The print bed is going to be out of place, and the printer head is going to be blocking the model. You want the good frames of the printer showing its work after every layer. But how do you make sure that the camera even captures all the good frames? What if the good frames only happen between 2 shots of the time-lapse? The trick here is you need to instruct the 3D printer to hold the pose where it's showing its work for at least the same amount of time as the time-lapse interval. In this case, for at least 1 second. This makes sure that the good frame has been recorded by every camera that's taking at least 1 picture every second. So now, in our footage, we know we'll have all the good frames. But every camera also picks up a lot of bad frames, so this isn't usable just yet. We need to somehow figure out a way to weed out all the bad frames easily, so you can just stitch the rest together into your time-lapse videos. You somehow have to bake into the footage something that you can use to say that this is a good frame, and this is a bad frame that needs to be tossed out. There's a bunch of ways you can do this. For example, many 3D printers have LEDs on the device, and you can turn these on or off using the same kind of G-code instructions we use to tell the printer to show its work. You could try setting these on when the 3D printer is showing its work, and off otherwise. Then afterwards, you could use the lower illumination levels in the time-lapse frames to weed out all the bad frames. You can also use the print bed location. which, if it's fully extended when the printer is showing its work, is really easy to grab during post-processing. In my case, I use an even simpler trick. In a time-lapse, between frame to frame, something is usually always in motion, so if I can hold the good shot for long enough, my camera shoots many good frames where the printer is just showing its work, so nothing is moving at all from frame to frame. I can then use the stillness in these frames afterwards to tell that these were good frames. And that's all there is to it. You start up your 3D printer with the modified instructions to show its work after every layer, and hold that pose for a couple of seconds to get some good frames in with no motion. You set up your camera or cameras to record your time-lapse. And then after it's all done, you just run the footage you shot through some Python script to identify and extract all the good frames and stitch them together into your final video. If you don't know how to code, you can ask ChatGPT to write the script for you. The main drawback with this approach is that it takes a little longer to print, because you hold each good frame for a couple of seconds every layer, and it takes a little longer after that to process the footage. In theory, you could process the footage as the cameras are taking the time lapses, dropping bad frames as they come and saving only the good ones. But this would only work if your camera can run some custom application to take this time lapse. So that's the process. I really hope this was useful to somebody out there. This isn't meant to be a 3D printing channel. I just thought this was a fun problem, and it was a really good challenge to make my first video. So happy printing, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of these amazing time lapses out there. Take care.